What's going on, guys? It's your channel TFD back in the building with another video. And this time, the national championship ratings just dropped. You already know we gotta talk about it. This one right here, it's all about the Caitlin Clark effect. Let's break it down. Let's get it. Let's go. So, the moment we've all been waiting for is finally here. The ratings for this year's national championship game have dropped. And let me just cut straight to the point because I'm not about to sugarcoat this or dance around the issue like everyone else seems to be doing. Let's be real. There hasn't been any significant growth in women's basketball, period. The numbers speak for themselves. Let me say it loud and clear. There wasn't growth in women's basketball. There was Caitlin Clark. That's it. She was the growth. She is the storyline. And I know some of y'all don't want to admit it, but the numbers don't lie. You've heard the saying, men lie, women lie, but numbers don't. And this is a textbook example of that. Without Caitlin Clark, the buzz fades. The stats back it up. Sure, viewership might be up compared to previous years, but let's not fool ourselves into thinking this is some exponential rise in interest across the board. It's not. The truth is, without Caitlin Clark carrying the narrative, women's basketball risks slipping back into obscurity, right where it was before she stepped onto the court and changed everything. And let me just say this. Paige Bueckers? She's talented, no doubt, but she's no Caitlin Clark. Neither is anyone else right now, not Hannah Hidalgo, not Lauren Betts. None of them have that same star power or ability to draw eyes to the screen like Caitlin does. And we need to stop pretending otherwise. The Final Four ratings prove my point. And mark my words, when the WNBA season rolls around, we'll see even more evidence of this. The numbers will drop across the board, except for games featuring Caitlin Clark. Watch how everyone tunes in for Indiana Fever games while other teams struggle to draw attention.
Why?
Because Caitlin Clark is the story. It's time we stop lying to ourselves and face reality. Women's basketball hasn't grown as a whole. It's riding on Caitlin Clark's shoulders right now. That's just the way it is. Let me know what y'all think in the comments, because I'm standing by this 100%. Now let's pull up these ratings right here, because I had to dig deep to get the facts. You've got to cut through the fluff, and that's exactly what I'm doing here, cutting through the noise and getting straight to the truth. We need to stop lying to ourselves and letting the media trick us into thinking there's some massive breakthrough happening. No, there wasn't. What there was is Caitlin Clark. Fans tuned in Sunday for the national championship rematch between UConn and South Carolina. The 2025 NCAA tournament marked the second most consumed women's basketball tournament on record, with 8.5 million viewers. Yes, million, not billion. It was also the third most watched women's national championship game on ESPN platforms since they began exclusively presenting the NCAA women's tournament in 1996. The broadcast peaked at 9.8 million viewers during the game. Now, judging by these numbers, some of you might think everything is fine and dandy, right? You might think women's basketball is thriving. But let me remind you of last year's numbers. The 2024 championship game drew 18.9 million viewers and peaked at a staggering 24 million viewers. That means viewership this year dropped by nearly 50%. Yes, 50%. The numbers don't lie, men lie, women lie, but numbers don't. Let's pull up another stat and look at how viewership has trended over the years. While this year's numbers are still strong compared to earlier years, they pale in comparison to last year's record-breaking figures driven by Caitlin Clark's star power. It's clear that sustained growth in women's basketball isn't happening yet, not without someone like Caitlin Clark commanding attention. This year's ratings are a wake-up call. Women's basketball needs more consistent star power and compelling narratives to maintain momentum, not just one standout player like Caitlin Clark carrying everything on her shoulders. Let me know what y'all think in the comments, because these numbers tell a story that can't be ignored. So, Christine Brandon. Everyone should know who Christine Brandon is, but if you don't, she said, viewership for the NCAA National Championship game over the past 5 years has been as follows. 4.1 million in 2021, 4.5 million in 2022, 9.9 million in 2023, 18.9 million in 2024, and it dropped all the way down to 8.5 million in 2025. better than many previous years, but significantly lower compared to the 2 historic years driven by Caitlin Clark. Christine Brandon went on to admit that Caitlin Clark was the key factor behind those record-breaking numbers. Now, people are trying to blame the drop on game times, but let's be honest, the game times were consistent across these years. The 2023 championship aired at 3:30 p.m., the 2024 championship aired at 3 p.m., and the 2025 championship also aired at 3 p.m. The time slot had nothing to do with it. These are all similar times. Let's stop pretending that time slots were the issue here. It wasn't. The numbers clearly show that Caitlin Clark was the driving force behind the unprecedented viewership spikes in women's basketball over the last couple of years. Without her star power leading the narrative, viewership has dropped significantly this year. Men lie, women lie, but numbers don't lie. Let's talk about the reality of women's basketball viewership, and I'm not going to sugarcoat this. The 2025 national championship game lacked the star power of Caitlin Clark, and that's why the numbers dropped so drastically. Paige Bueckers isn't Caitlin. Gino Auriemma isn't Caitlin. Dawn Staley isn't Caitlin. Raven Johnson isn't Caitlin. No one involved in this year's championship brought the viewers like Caitlin Clark did last year. The numbers don't lie. Last year, we saw 18.9 million viewers for the championship game, driven almost entirely by the Caitlin Clark effect. This year, it plummeted to 8.5 million, a drop of nearly 50%. And here's the harsh truth. It's going to drop again next year, likely down to 5 million or even back to 4 million viewers. If it dropped by 50% from last year to this year, what's stopping it from dropping another 50%? The draw was Caitlin Clark, plain and simple. Until people recognize this fact, we're going to stay stuck in this clouded view of what growth in women's basketball really means. The truth is, there hasn't been sustainable growth. There was Caitlin Clark. She was the storyline, the star, the reason people tuned in. Without her, women's basketball risks losing the momentum she created. The numbers prove it. Men lie, women lie, but numbers don't lie. If we want real growth in women's basketball, we need more players with Caitlin Clark's level of star power and ability to captivate audiences. Let me know what you think, because this conversation needs to happen now before viewership drops even further. Let's break this down because no one else seems willing to say it. The viewership for women's basketball dropped by 10 million people. Yes, 10 million. That's an entire small country worth of viewers gone. From 18.9 million last year to just 8.5 million this year. That's a massive loss. And since no one else wants to admit it, I'll say it. This wasn't about women's basketball as a whole. This was about Caitlin Clark. Caitlin Clark was the draw, plain and simple. Paige Bueckers isn't Caitlin. Angel Reese isn't Caitlin. Dawn Staley isn't Caitlin. No one else has brought the kind of attention and excitement to women's basketball that Caitlin did. Without her, the numbers tell the story. There's no growth here, just a steep decline. And let me tell you something, it's not going to stop here. If we've already lost 10 million viewers in 1 year, what do you think is going to happen next year? I'm calling it now. Viewership will drop even further, maybe down to 5 million or even back to 4 million. The numbers don't lie, and until we recognize that Caitlin Clark was the reason for the surge in interest, we're going to keep pretending there's some magical growth happening when there isn't. This isn't hate, it's reality. Caitlin Clark created a moment, but moments don't equal sustained growth unless the entire sport steps up and builds on what she started. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, because this conversation needs to happen. And like always, keep those notifications on because there's more to discuss next time.